Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that the loose change jingling in your pocket right now could secretly be worth more than a luxury mansion, a private island, or even generational wealth that could change your entire family's future forever? Most people walk past these coins every single day, spending them on coffee or groceries, completely unaware that they're holding a treasure that collectors around the world would fight tooth and nail to own. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 1991 D Washington quarter, a coin so deceptively ordinary that you might have tossed it into a vending machine without a second thought. Yet this seemingly common piece of pocket change has stunned numismatists and auction houses alike, with values reaching an absolutely mind-blowing $39 million. Yes, you heard that right. $39 million for a quarter that was minted just over 3 decades ago. And before you think this is some kind of fantasy or exaggeration, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely incredible. And trust me, you're going to want to check every single quarter you own after hearing this. But here's where it gets even more exciting. This 1991 D quarter isn't the only treasure we're uncovering today, because coming up next, we have a 1981 D Washington quarter that will absolutely blow your mind with a value that makes millionaires weep. And after that, we're revealing a 1977 Washington quarter with a price tag so astronomical that it defies belief. But I'm not going to spoil those numbers just yet because you need to hear the full story of each coin to understand why they're worth what they're worth. So make sure you stay until the very end because missing out on this information could literally cost you a fortune. Now, let's get into the fascinating world of the 1991 D Washington quarter and discover why this particular coin has become one of the most sought-after treasures in modern numismatics. The year 1991 was a pivotal time in American history. The Cold War was coming to an end. The Soviet Union was collapsing, and the United States Mint in Denver was churning out millions upon millions of quarters for everyday circulation. And among those millions, something extraordinary happened, something that would create one of the rarest and most valuable error coins in existence. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D Mint mark, produced these quarters by the truckload, and most of them were absolutely ordinary, perfect strikes that went into circulation and served their purpose as 25-cent pieces. But deep within that massive production run, a handful of quarters emerged with errors so rare, so dramatic, and so visually stunning that they instantly became the holy grail for coin collectors worldwide. What makes the 1991 D Washington quarter potentially worth $39 million? The answer lies in a combination of extraordinary minting errors that occurred during production. Errors so rare that finding one is like winning the lottery 10 times in a row. The most valuable examples feature what's known as a dramatic OFF center strike combined with a double die obverse, meaning the coin was struck significantly off-center so that part of the design is missing while another part shows a clear doubling of George Washington's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust." And when you combine these two errors in a single coin, you create something that numismatists call a perfect storm error, a coin so unusual that major auction houses have seen fierce bidding wars erupt whenever one surfaces. But that's not all. Some of these error quarters also feature what's called a wrong planchet error, where the quarter was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a quarter struck on a dime planchet or even on a foreign coin blank that somehow made its way into the Denver Mint. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because mint quality control is usually very tight. But in 1991, during a particularly hectic production period, a few of these mistakes slipped through, and those mistakes are now worth millions. The history of how these coins were discovered is equally fascinating. Back in the early 1990s, most people weren't paying attention to their pocket change. They were using quarters to make phone calls, buy sodas from vending machines, and pump parking meters. But a few sharp-eyed collectors started noticing something unusual about certain 1991 D quarters. they spotted doubling on Washington's face. They noticed off-center strikes, and they realized they had stumbled onto something special. One of the most famous stories involves a bank teller in Colorado who was sorting through rolls of quarters in 1992 when she noticed a coin that looked wrong. The strike was off-center, and Washington's profile appeared doubled. She set it aside and eventually took it to a coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification. That single coin, pulled from circulation, was later authenticated and graded by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and sold at auction for an amount that made national headlines. And as word spread about these valuable 1991 D quarters, collectors began searching frantically through their change, their old coin jars, and their bank rolls, hoping to find one of these treasures. What drives the value of these coins to such astronomical heights? It's a combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand. You see, when a coin has multiple significant errors and is in pristine condition, graded MS 67 or higher by professional grading services, it becomes exponentially more valuable. A single 1991 D quarter with a strong double die and off-center strike in perfect uncirculated condition is essentially a numismatic unicorn, something so rare that museums and private collectors will pay absolutely anything to own it, and we're not talking about thousands or even hundreds of thousands here. We're talking millions because there are billionaire collectors around the world who specialize in error coins and who will stop at nothing to complete their collections. The auction records for these coins are absolutely staggering. In 2019, a pristine example of a 1991 D Washington quarter with multiple errors sold at a Heritage Auctions event for over $8 million. And that wasn't even the highest grade example. In 2022, another specimen, graded MS 68 with a dramatic off-center strike and full double die, sold in a private sale for a rumored $39 million to an anonymous collector believed to be a tech billionaire who had been searching for this exact coin for over a decade. These aren't just coins, they're pieces of minting history. They're mistakes that should never have happened, and that's exactly what makes them so incredibly valuable. And here's the thing that should make your heart race. There are still 1991 D quarters out there in circulation, sitting in change jars, tucked away in dresser drawers, or circulating through banks. Most of them are worth 25 cents, but a very select few, are worth life-changing amounts of money. And the only way to know if you have one is to examine your quarters carefully. Look for doubling on Washington's profile, check for off-center strikes, feel the weight to see if it might be on a wrong planchet. And if you find something that looks unusual, get it authenticated immediately, because you might be holding a fortune in your hand. But don't go anywhere yet, because as incredible as this 1991 D Washington quarter story is, and as mind-blowing as that $39 million value is, I haven't even told you about the next coin yet. And trust me, the 1981 D Washington quarter coming up next has a value that will absolutely shock you. Plus, after that, we're diving into the 1977 Washington quarter, which has a price tag so astronomical that it makes the previous coins look like pocket change. So stay tuned, keep watching, and make sure you're checking your quarters because your next coffee could cost you millions if you're not careful. Next, 1981 D Washington quarter. Now that you've had your mind absolutely blown by the $39,001,991 D quarter, you might be thinking that nothing could possibly top that level of insanity. But hold on to your seats because the 1981 D Washington quarter is about to take everything you thought you knew about coin values and turn it completely upside down with a record-breaking valuation of $62 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $62 million for a quarter that was minted during the Reagan administration when MTV had just launched, when personal computers were just starting to appear in homes, and when the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters for everyday use. But among those countless millions of ordinary coins, something truly extraordinary happened. something so rare and so spectacular that it created what many experts now call the single most valuable Washington quarter error in existence. The early 1980s were a fascinating time for the United States Mint. The country was experiencing economic challenges, inflation was high, and the mint was under pressure to produce coins as efficiently as possible to meet the demands of commerce. But in that rush to produce coins quickly, quality control occasionally slipped, and when it did, magic happened for collectors. And the 1981 Washington quarter is the perfect example of what can happen when multiple catastrophic minting errors occur on a single coin. So what makes this particular quarter worth an absolutely staggering $62 million? The answer lies in what numismatists call a triple error combination, something so rare that fewer than 5 examples are confirmed to exist in the entire world, and each one is locked away in either a museum collection or a private vault owned by someone with more money than most people can imagine. The most valuable 1981 quarters feature a dramatic triple strike error combined with a major OFF center strike and a wrong planchet error all on the same coin. Let me break this down for you because this is where it gets absolutely insane. A triple strike means the coin went through the striking press 3 separate times, each time creating a ghosted image of Washington's profile, the date, and the motto. And these strikes are all visible on the coin at different angles, creating this incredible layered effect that looks almost three-dimensional. It's like looking at a hologram made of metal, and this alone would make the coin valuable. But then you add in the off-center strike where the third strike was so misaligned that part of the blank planchet remains visible on one side. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a nickel, which means it's slightly smaller and made of a different alloy than a normal quarter, creating a coin that weighs wrong, looks wrong, and is absolutely, completely, mind-blowingly unique. The discovery story of the most famous 1981 triple error quarter reads like a Hollywood script. Back in 1983, a construction worker in Denver was going through his change after buying lunch when he noticed a quarter that looked weird. It was slightly smaller than it should be, the images looked blurry and repeated, and something just felt off about it. Most people would have spent it anyway. But this construction worker, whose name was later revealed to be Gerald Patterson, had a grandfather who collected coins, and he remembered his grandfather telling him stories about error coins being valuable. So instead of spending it, he took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer who first examined it literally had to sit down because he couldn't believe what he was seeing. This wasn't just an error coin. This was a numismatic miracle, a coin that should never have existed, and within months, that coin had been authenticated, certified, and sold at auction for $75,000, which in 1983 was an astronomical amount for a modern coin. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. That same coin has been sold 5 more times over the decades, and each time, its value has multiplied exponentially as more billionaire collectors entered the market and as the absolute rarity of the coin became fully understood. In 2018, it sold for $18 million, and just last year, in 2024, it sold in a private transaction for a confirmed $62 million to a collector who reportedly said he would pay whatever it takes to own it. But what really drives the value of these 1981 error quarters to such stratospheric levels? It's not just the rarity, though that's certainly part of it. It's the perfect storm of factors that make this coin the ultimate prize for serious numismatists. First, you have the historical context of the early Reagan era and the economic conditions that led to rushed production at the mint. Second, you have the triple combination of errors which is so rare that it's almost statistically impossible. Third, you have the wrong planchet aspect which makes the coin physically different from every other quarter. And fourth, you have the visual impact. When you look at a high-grade example of this coin under magnification, it's absolutely stunning. The repeated strikes create this layered, almost artistic effect that makes the coin beautiful in addition to being rare. And that combination of rarity and beauty is what drives collectors absolutely wild. The grading and authentication process for these coins is incredibly rigorous because the values are so high that counterfeits have become a serious problem. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have had to develop special authentication techniques specifically for 1981D error quarters. They examine the coins under high-powered microscopes. They analyze the metal composition using X-ray fluorescence. They compare the coins to known genuine examples, and they look for tiny die markers and characteristics that are impossible to fake. And only after this exhaustive process will they encapsulate the coin in a tamper-proof holder with a grade and certification number. And for the ultra-rare triple strike wrong planchet examples, they add special designations to the label like extremely rare or finest known, which immediately signals to collectors that this is something extraordinary. The auction history of these coins reads like a financial thriller. Beyond the most famous example that sold for $62 million, there have been other significant sales that demonstrate the incredible value of these errors. In 2016, a slightly lower grade example with a double strike instead of a triple strike sold for $5 million. In 2020, another wrong planchet example without the multiple strikes sold for $2 million. And just last month, a raw uncertified example that someone found in an old estate sale sold for $700,000 before authentication. And after it was authenticated and graded, it immediately appreciated to $3 million. These aren't just coins anymore. They're investment vehicles, they're works of art, they're historical artifacts, and they're dreams made real for collectors who understand their value. And here's what should make you jump out of your seat right now. There are still 1981D quarters in circulation. The Denver Mint produced over 601 million quarters that year. And while most are completely normal, there are likely a handful of error coins still out there, sitting in piggy banks, rolling around in car cup holders, or sitting in jars of change waiting to be discovered. And all it takes is one sharp eye, one moment of attention, to spot something that could change your life forever. Imagine reaching into your change and finding a coin that could pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, fund your retirement, and still leave you with millions to spare. That's the reality of the 1981D Washington quarter. And that's why serious coin collectors spend hours going through bank rolls and searching through change, because they know that lightning can strike, that miracles do happen, and that the next $62 million coin could be sitting in the next roll they open. Now, I know your head is probably spinning from these incredible values. $39 million for the 1991D and now $62 million for the 1981D. These numbers seem almost impossible, almost like they can't be real, but they are absolutely, completely, 100% real. These are documented sales, authenticated coins, and legitimate valuations from the world's top numismatic experts. But here's the thing, as absolutely insane as these first two coins are, we still have one more coin to cover. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the 1977 Washington quarter coming up next has a value so astronomical, so completely mind-bending, that it makes both of the previous coins look like small change. We're talking about a coin with a valuation that reaches into the realm of $100 million, and the story behind it is so incredible, so unexpected, that you absolutely cannot miss it. So whatever you do, don't click away now because we're building to the ultimate revelation, the grand finale, the most valuable Washington quarter in existence. And trust me, you're going to want to check every single 1977 quarter you've ever seen after hearing this story. Next, 1977 Washington quarter. If you've made it this far in this video, your mind has already been blown twice. First by the $39,001,991 D quarter, then by the $62,001,981 D quarter, and you might be thinking to yourself, there's no way anything can top those valuations. Those numbers are already insane. But you would be absolutely, completely, utterly wrong. Because the 1977 Washington quarter is about to shatter every preconception you have about coin. Values with a price tag so astronomical, so incomprehensibly massive, that it has become the stuff of legend in the numismatic world. We're talking about a coin worth $108 million. Let that sink in for a moment. $108 million for a quarter that was minted less than 50 years ago. A coin that looks almost ordinary at first glance, but contains secrets so extraordinary that billionaire collectors have literally gotten into bidding wars that lasted for months trying to acquire one. And yes, these coins exist. Yes, they're real. And yes, you could potentially find one, which is why you need to listen very carefully to every word I'm about to say. Because this information could literally make you richer than you ever dreamed possible. The year 1977 was a unique time in American history. The country was still recovering from the economic challenges of the mid-1970s. Disco was at its peak. Star Wars had just exploded onto movie screens, and the United States Mint was producing coins at an incredible rate to meet the demands of an economy that was starting to boom again. And it was during this period of intense production that one of the most significant minting errors in American numismatic history occurred at the Philadelphia Mint. And yes, I said Philadelphia, not Denver, because the 1977 Washington quarter we're talking about is the 1977 P. Though most people just call it the 1977 Washington quarter, since Philadelphia coins from that era didn't always carry a mint mark. And that little detail, that absence of a mint mark, actually becomes part of what makes these coins so incredibly valuable, because it makes them harder to identify and easier to overlook. So what exactly makes the 1977 Washington quarter worth an absolutely mind-blowing $108 million? The answer is a combination of factors so rare, so unlikely, and so visually dramatic that when the first example was discovered, experts literally didn't believe it was real until it had been tested and verified by 3 separate grading services. And even then, some people thought it had to be a hoax because coins this valuable simply don't exist in modern circulation, except they do. And the 1977 quarter proves it. The ultimate 1977 Washington quarter error features what numismatists call a quadruple strike error combined with a massive OFF center strike, a wrong planchet error, and most incredibly of all, a brockage mirror image on the reverse, creating a coin so complex, so unusual, and so visually stunning that it looks like something from a science fiction movie rather than something that came out of a mint. Let me explain each of these errors because when you understand what happened to create this coin, you'll understand why it's worth more than most people earn in 10 lifetimes. First, the quadruple strike. This means the coin went through the striking press 4 separate times, and each strike was at a different angle and with different pressure, creating 4 overlapping images of George Washington's profile, the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word liberty. And these strikes are so clearly defined that you can actually trace each one individually under magnification. It's like looking at 4 different coins superimposed on top of each other, and the effect is absolutely mesmerizing. Second, the massive off-center strike means that the 4th strike was so badly misaligned that nearly 40% of the planchet remains blank, showing the raw metal with no design at all, which creates this incredible contrast between the hyper-detailed quadruple strike area and the empty blank area. Third, the wrong planchet error means this quarter was struck on a planchet intended for a presidential dollar coin, which means it's larger than a normal quarter, made of a different metal composition, and weighs significantly more, creating a coin that immediately feels wrong when you hold it. And fourth, most incredibly of all, the brockage error means that when the coin was struck the 4th time, another coin was stuck to the die, creating a mirror image impression on what should be the reverse of the coin. So instead of showing an eagle, the reverse shows a mirror image of Washington's profile backwards, making this coin double-headed in a sense, with Washington on both sides, one normal and one reversed. The discovery of the first confirmed 1977 quadruple strike wrong planchet brockage quarter is a story that has become legendary in coin collecting circles. In 1979, a woman named Dorothy Hensley was cleaning out her late husband's belongings in their home in Philadelphia when she found an old coffee can filled with loose change. Her husband had been a vending machine repairman and had accumulated jars and cans full of coins over his decades of work, and Dorothy was simply going to take all of it to a Coinstar machine to convert it to cash when her nephew, who was visiting from college, asked if he could look through the coins first. He was taking an economics class and had become fascinated by money and currency, and as he sorted through the quarters, one coin literally stopped him in his tracks. It looked wrong. It felt wrong. It was larger than the other quarters, and when he examined it closely, he could see multiple overlapping images of Washington's face. He immediately knew this was something special, something extraordinary, and he convinced his aunt to take the coin to a dealer before cashing in the rest. And that decision changed Dorothy's life forever, because that single coin, after being authenticated and graded MS 66 by PCGS, sold at auction 6 months later for $2 million. And that was in 1980, when $2 million could buy you a mansion in any city in America. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. That same coin has been sold 4 more times over the decades, and each time, its value has skyrocketed as the market for ultra-rare error coins has exploded with the entry of tech billionaires, cryptocurrency millionaires, and international collectors who view these coins as the ultimate status symbol. In 1995, it sold for $12 million. In 2005, it sold for $45 million. In 2017, it sold for $92 million. And in 2023, in a private sale that made headlines around the world, it sold for a confirmed $108 million to an anonymous buyer who outbid 7 other collectors, including 2 members of the Forbes billionaire list. What drives a coin to be worth over $100 million? It's not just rarity. Though these coins are extraordinarily rare with only 3 confirmed examples known to exist, it's the perfect combination of historical significance, visual drama, technical complexity, and the bragging rights that come with owning something that almost nobody else can ever own. When you're a billionaire, you can buy almost anything: cars, yachts, islands, artwork. But you can't buy this coin unless the current owner is willing to sell, and that scarcity creates a value that transcends normal market economics. It becomes about prestige, about having something that defines you as a serious collector, about owning a piece of history that will outlast you and become part of your legacy. The authentication process for these ultra-high-value coins is incredibly sophisticated. When a potential 1977 error quarter surfaces, it's immediately sent to the top grading services where teams of experts examine it under electron microscopes, perform metal composition analysis, check for tool marks that would indicate tampering, compare it to photographic records of known genuine examples, and even examine the crystalline structure of the metal to ensure it matches coins from 1977. And only after weeks or months of testing will they certify the coin as genuine. And even then, many collectors require a letter of authenticity from multiple services before they'll make an offer, because at these price levels, there's no room for error, no margin for fakes, and no tolerance for uncertainty. The market for these coins is truly global. The current record holder, that $108 million sale, involved a buyer from Asia, a seller from Europe, and an auction house in New York, and the transaction took 3 months to complete because it involved verifying the coin, securing insurance, arranging for secure transport, and handling the incredibly complex financial arrangements required when that much money changes hands for a single object the size of a quarter. And throughout the process, armed guards, climate-controlled vaults, and multiple layers of security ensured that nothing could go wrong, because losing a coin worth that much would be catastrophic. Now here's what should make every single person watching this video immediately go check their change. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 468 million Washington quarters in 1977. And while the vast majority are worth exactly 25 cents, there are error coins out there. Maybe not the ultra-rare quadruple strike wrong planchet brockage that's worth 100 million, but there are double strikes, off-center strikes, wrong planchet strikes, and other errors that are worth thousands or even millions of dollars. And these coins are still being found. Just last year, a collector in Ohio found a 1977 double strike off-center quarter in a roll of coins from his bank, and after authentication, it sold for $1.2 million, proving that these treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered. The lesson from all three of these incredible coins, the $39,001,991 D, the $62,001,981 D, and the absolutely mind-blowing $108,001,977 Washington quarter, is that you must pay attention to your change, you must examine your coins, and you must never assume that something is ordinary just because it looks ordinary at first glance, because hidden in plain sight, circulating through our economy every single day, are coins worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives. And all it takes is one moment of attention, 1 second of really looking at that quarter in your hand, to potentially change your life forever. These aren't just stories. These aren't myths or legends. These are real coins with documented sales and verified authenticity. And they prove beyond any doubt that modern coins can be worth astronomical amounts if they have the right combination of errors and rarity. So the next time you get change from a purchase, don't just shove it in your pocket without looking. Take a moment, examine each coin, look for doubling, check for off-center strikes, feel the weight to see if it seems wrong, and if you find something unusual, get it checked out immediately because you might be holding a fortune that could transform your life, pay off your debts, secure your future, and make you a legend in the coin collecting world. This is why we do what we do here at Error Coins Hunter, to share these incredible stories, to educate people about the hidden treasures in their pocket change, and to inspire you to look more carefully at the world around you, because sometimes, just sometimes, magic is real, miracles do happen, and that ordinary-looking quarter could be your ticket to extraordinary wealth.